good week. If Bunny were to take this one down and overtake Gabby, this might be a week that we can chalk up for the Boomers in European GM, right? Gaining a little bit of ground on some of those younger players that have come in, the likes of Blyze, the likes of Gabby, the likes of Frenetic, who are doing so well in this tournament overall.
I'm a little bit worried, though, as we get into game 1 for Blyze. It has just clicked that he's not in his void at the moment, and that might reduce down his power level just a little bit.
That is a great point, actually.
Yeah. I can
As
see
we
the
know,
background.
yeah, these autonomous entities do have significantly less power outside of their own void,
Yep.
which means that maybe the spell is broken.
Both players just kicking off with a quest either side. Bunnyhoppor again just doesn't have access to the big cards you're looking for in the early game with that rod and backfire combination. Because as I said, he will want to draw through the deck, but also maximize damage to try and land a relatively early giant. Because this Demon Hunter, outside of already having brutes on board, has very little game versus just singular early large minions.
And once again, I feel like I talk about this all the time, but Bunny has the beginnings of the hand. And the beginnings of the hand are the options of playing Cult Neophyte on turn 2, because doing so can potentially prevent an early quest proc, right? Blyze is showing indicators that he wants an early quest proc here with the Sigil going into the turn 3. And it keeps that hand size nice and low to play around the potential glide from the opponent. However, he chooses not to do so, and I think a big part of the reason he's choosing not to do so is that the rest of his hand is not particularly high quality. There's no raised edge to be getting back multiple neophytes, there's no backfire, there's no weapon, there's no real indicator of what his long-term game plan is. So he is just going to choose to start tapping through the deck.
And I also think that the Tour Guide plus Neophyte potentially next turn would still just be fine, right? It gives him a reasonable turn 3, still gets the pressure of Neophyte down, but he can continue tapping for all the reasons you laid out. While you had 3 seconds to talk there, Blyze just had his turn, as is often the case. Didn't quite get to reducing that brute down all the way, but did get that first quest activation, and he still has that second sigil live now. So with acrobatics, could be looking at another good turn here from Blyze.
Another happy guildie.
Moarg and Fellscream are going to be picking up the discounts here. He had the quest completion nice and easy with an already discounted acrobatics just going back up to its regular cost from the Cult Neophyte, and the tradable just coming through clutch for that last card draw.
Yeah, and honestly, Saul, Moarg, Il'gynoth, Fellscream Blast. I mean, I don't want to say it too early, but Blyze is definitely hitting some interesting cards here with these reductions. It's not often you hit like all combo pieces near enough with reductions this early. You're normally looking at, oh, one combo piece hit. Well, I'm probably going to glide away, so not too much of a big deal. Doesn't really matter. But I think this is one of those games where it actually might, and Blyze might actually respect how cheap this hand is and what this hand can achieve.
So what's happened here? The first quest proc and a sigil hit the first Moarg, right? That's why that cost 0. And then the second quest proc just hit every other combo piece in the deck in a single go. Okay, you love to see it.
And that's the thing, although Warlock does get to 10 cards or less very quick, can build a big board very quickly, it still takes a certain amount of time, right? It's not like this sort of, like Bunnyhoppor's deck will go too fast, even for this potential combo from Blyze. Especially if you can get hold of some philosophies in the meantime, right? And just go absolutely crazy with Moargs.
Yes. Yeah, philosophies are insane because obviously they're duplicating 0 mana Moargs at this point, which is just exponential damage for no additional mana cost.
Another happy guildie.
Again. Is he? Okay. Is he going to play that?
Going face. Absolutely go face here. You absolutely don't play the Immolation Aura, because right now your steal the game out of nowhere lethal involves a board on their side and your side, so that you can cast both of the Fellscream Blasts, so you really want those minions to still be there.
One more shuffle if he wants it this turn with the Viper. Could hold off for next turn though, so he can play Kurtrus and shuffle at minimum, but I think the average just more cards, more options is a little bit better. Spend the mana now.
Agreed. yeah, I was going to say, Blaze turns the lights off and then it's like, shush, no one tell him. No one tell him. I'm hiding. No one can see me. No! Now he can see. Oh, Blaze, honestly.
Summoned his Void just for a second there for a bit of extra power.
Yeah, he needed to juice up. He needed to juice up real quick. The underrated thing about Bly's Void is that does he just have a wardrobe full of black hoodies that he can just wear every day as well to fill in?
I do like this though, as I mentioned. I think the power is Bunnyhoppor going for the giant. It won't matter, but still.
It's fine. No one told him. We kept it quiet, Blyze. It's good. You can trust me. I'll keep your secret. He lacked critical information.
And even Bunnyhoppor with the laugh is like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, you got me. Game 1 goes to Blyze with that Demon Hunter in a way you don't often see it going. And there you go. Blyze more or less in his Void there for the victory.
Yeah, welcome back to the Void indeed. And Bunny, if you thought that you were something because you managed to take down an entire Gold Team Championship, China Team League single-handedly, forget about it, because Blyze just hits different. And when I say he hits different, he hits you for 24 damage on turn 6 with 6 mana Il'gynoth in his deck. How is that even possible? That's not how numbers work. But Blyze can do it because of the power of the Void.
He's going to be jumping over to the Shadow Priest now that he does have available. He banned Bunnyhoppor's Shadow Priest away. And I'm just waiting to get word on what Bunnyhoppor's going to queue here. But already he's got like the good matchup and the bad matchup in general, with the good matchup being against that Warlock we just saw from Bunnyhoppor, and the bad matchup being against that Shaman. So either which way, we'll see how this one pans out, as Bunnyhoppor's just taking a second to decide. Oh, it's going to be the Warlock again. So Blyze, at least just by the numbers, on track to make this a 3-0 kind of day, Sol.
It could very well be. Could be an absolute record breaker in terms of broadcast length for the European region. Particularly because, finals day, a little bit shorter on average just because of the 3 matches, but then 3 3-0s, and 2 of those 3-0s being Blyze exhibitions could be an absolute record destroyer in terms of the speed of the broadcast. But we shall wait and see how this one pans out, because we are kind of just giving this over to Priest before the game is even played, and I think that is a little bit preemptive because Warlock certainly has some game in this matchup. Soul Render's of course huge, but as I talked about yesterday, I think a big part of the reason is why everyone is now starting to agree that this is a very good matchup for the Priest is that the Priest players have got better at manipulating those Soul Rend breakpoints, at playing around those Soul Rends, using Divine Shields, using health buffs, using Cult Neophytes to prevent those crucial turns from being able to bite you.
Yeah, if I'm honest, it's becoming to the point now where the most times I see Warlock winning this matchup is when the Priest doesn't do Void Touch things early on, right, and push like the absurd levels of damage they can do. The game's a little bit slow for the Priest, and honestly, the Warlock just mass card draws down to 10. They might be on like 5 health or something at this point in the game, but they just blitz to that low point and then recover with Baron Scavengers, with Bristlebacks, and then the game just kind of ends at that point. And although I'm not saying that happens all the time by any means, that is actually swiftly becoming the most common way I see it going when Warlock does win, as opposed to, oh, well, if I can just get Soul Rend, because as you pointed out, I don't think just Soul Rend even cuts it anymore.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Done, done, done. What did you say about being able to win if there wasn't early Void Touch stuff on the other side?
But it wouldn't happen. The old River Croc, yeah.
Yeah, just to contest.
Oh, and this is painful to see. Doesn't have to go for it right now because of Sottle's Noise and this Wriggling Horror, but the fact that these are 2 very good minions on board for Blyze, he can attack face and play Twilight Deceptor, so even if Bunnyhoppor does clear it up, it just hits the board again. Same could be said of Wriggling Horror, honestly, so it's not like he has to play Deceptor right now. But still, just the fact he has access to a Raise Dead pretty easily with this opening is so strong.
How's that trade, Blyze? You can tell that turn was hard because Blyze actually stopped and thought about it. He actually got halfway through his turn. First off, playing the Wriggling Horror is not a given. Obviously, that was what my reaction that you were pointing out was too, because it enabled the big trade. But even though it enabled it, It's the one thing about, you know, buffs to create trades that I think sometimes is overlooked, is that if you create that board state where you have a 3-2 and a 2-3 Divine Shield, that's your work done, right? Like, you've changed a bad trade into a good trade for you. You don't have to take it. You can still just go face and let your opponent do the same thing. And yes, that opens up the threat of bump into the Divine Shield and like drain soul the Divine Shield, right, on the other side, which is scary. However, then you have go face, play Twilight Deceptor, play Raise Dead, 1 mana remaining to continue to play a Void Touch Attendant on the following turn. So I'm not sure how much of a punish that actually even ends up being there. A very difficult turn. I can even get on board with multiple lines that didn't play the Wriggling Horror and just went Colteron Chaplain or Twilight Deceptor instead.
And I'm starting thinking about it, and I can see merit for all these things, of course, but I do think in the end it is as simple as xBlyzes just wants the shield to stick, right, on the Void Touch.
Sure.
And again, I can see all the options here. And I do like this from Bunnyhoppor, though, equipping the rod. Like I said, I don't think the way to win is actually try and kill every single minion that the priest has, one by one, right? I think the way to win is build your big board, recover the health with the bristlebacks. So I do like him going for this rod. It can allow him to open up some strong plays. He now has the option of backfire. So he'll take what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10.
He's alive.
+4, yeah.
Did count it. Still on 0 out of 6 out quest, so he takes 4 damage onto the quest, doesn't get any healing off that, but it would have been very close. I think it's like 4 damage off lethal at that point if he'd have gone for the backfire, because there is 0 chance that he does anything else after the backfire, right? Because even if he drew 1 mana spells that got discounted to 0 from the rod proc, he was cold neophyted, so they would go back up again. But none of that matters, Raven, because Mindrender Lucia was drawn. Hooray!
I need that on a soundboard. Xbyzes like that. Thanks for the reduction, friend.
Class dismissed. Now time for the real lesson.
There's nothing he can do, right? Yeah, nothing.
No, he's just doing this because it's amusing, and why not? 4, 6, 9, 3 more.
million.
Power. Yep.
xBlyzes takes game number 2 in the blink of an eye, and that's just how you want it to go, right? An incredible opening there, having the options of defending the Void Touch with that Guardian Orc Merchant early on. Having even the options he had on that turn 2 were fantastic. We were talking about could have pretty much picked any combination of cards and it would have been a strong turn. Did choose to defend that Void Touch even more so and protecting that Divine Shield. And it did pay off him, allowing him to just stack even more damage going forward.
And I think those turn 2s, that type of turn is the hardest turn to get right in Hearthstone, because there's different varieties of turns that you can play, right? And in that case, it's a turn where there are lots of good plays available. And I think that those are the hardest ones to find. Because sometimes you'll look at a hand and there's only really one play that makes any sense. Cool, those are super easy. You do the one thing. Sometimes you're looking at a hand that seems to have no good plays, and then you stare at it until you see the one good play that you can see. And then you're like, okay, there it is. There's the good play. When you look at a hand that has 6 different good plays, that's the hardest one to figure out what you're supposed to do.
What's the goodest?
Yeah, and I think in that position, again, I made the joke, but it's very real. It's not even really being facetious, is that xBlyzes spent time thinking about that turn, which I think goes to show how difficult it was. I'm still not sure that what he did was right. I'm certainly not sure that what he did was wrong. What he did do that was right, though, was draw Mindrender Lucia, which made a lot of what came before far less important.
Does mean that Bunnyhoppor now has to win 3 in a row to fight back and get those 5 points he wants to end the week on. And again, if you're truly keeping up with exactly what the points look like or what they are per win, basically the loser of this still gets 4 points, which is more than nearly every single other person this week in Grandmasters, but the winner will get that magical 5, which puts them that one little step ahead of the game in general. Bunnyhoppor is going to switch out now from the Warlock to his Shaman, so we are going to see this Quest Shaman going up against the Garrote Rogue from xBlyzes.
Yeah, and a matchup that we haven't dug that deep into. These 2 decks have been a little bit like passing ships in the metagame. There was a crossover, rewind a couple of weeks to the original coming out party for Garrote Rogue in the Masters Tour, I suppose, with Orange and a few other players really flying the flag for it, then picked up in Grandmasters. But I think during that same time period, Quest Shaman's been on the downswing, right? And I think the way the meta's evolved around it has kind of forced Quest Shaman out a little bit more. So perhaps this matchup has not been as explored as it could have been, but I do liken it to Quest Shaman against sort of various combo Demon Hunters, whether it be OTK Demon Hunter or Fel Demon Hunter, for example, where the ability to fight for tempo is quite minimal a lot of the time on the rogue side. So they kind of have to ration out these few decent turns that they have, use their health as a resource a little bit as well, and kind of look for those long-term game plans. So I do think it's a fun matchup to watch. I do also think that Bunnyhoppor is a delight to watch on Quest Shaman in general, because I think this is a deck that he has got a really, really good handle on over the course of this Grandmasters season.
Yeah, Bunnyhoppor is one of the players, maybe we don't talk about this too much, but he's one of the players that I feel you can definitely tell when he likes a deck as well, right? It doesn't really seem so obvious, but the likes of certain rogue decks, especially that secret rogue not too long ago, we've seen him get pretty creative with this shaman deck as well, so we'll see if it pans out. He does have this novice zapper and bloom available to him as well, so very similar to an earlier game today. He has options to just activate quest proc 1 as and when is required.
Neophyte again, just trading down. This is not likely to be a particularly effective Neophyte, it has to be said, since this is going into a 4-mana turn and there are so many 3-mana options that your opponent wants to throw out that would just kind of curve out perfectly here with the Cult Neophyte. But I think Blyze is just spending these early turns just playing aggressively, fighting for tempo quite as hard as he can. He did have the Octobot discount option on that turn with Octobot and Org Merchant, but it's just not a very good discount hand, right? So while he is waiting to accrue resources, he is just using the expendable cards from his hand to just fight for board quite aggressively, using that to create a kind of a buffer for himself to dig for that field contact exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, weirdly enough, it kind of was a decent Neophyte turn, right? Because it just stopped some of the options.
It ended up that way,
right? Yeah, but I agree, it's not normally the case, but it just worked out that way against Bunnyhoppor. But again, Bunnyhoppor has a lot of mana to spend as and when he wants to. But Blyze continuing to fight for tempo here, dropping down that Kazakus. And yeah, it was a 5 cost. It makes sense in this matchup, I think, a lot more than most,
Agree.
honestly.
Yep, big agree. Oh yeah,
the good old days, so.
That is a 5-drop, Raven.
You'll be jealous. Owl Slogger. Guidance. Yeah, I was looking at it for a second there, but Guidance is just too good. He's going to now use it to proc the quest, unlock all these crystals. There's the Vivid he got offered from Guidance anyway. Oh, what a turn from Bunnyhoppor.
Yeah, big turn. It's the unlock, still has 2 mana to play with. Can almost, very close to just being able to triple overload again and get a 3-3 on board this turn.
I think he can just investment Lightning Bolt here, right? And just retain the health on his Mash Bomb.
I think I want a Guidance over the Lightning Bolt. Alright, Bunny disagrees. Sorry, Guidance over the investment. I think I said Lightning Bolt, yeah. No mistake. Alright, he actually ends up doing both and takes the trade instead, which is the middle ground, I suppose, between the two players.
Boom! 5 5s.
10-10 of stats.
Oh, now with Note Taker. What is going on here?
Many things, Raven.
Yeah,
many things.
Just a little bit short of getting a really good Vivid Spores here. Is that something you've got to look at? If you can land a safe Vivid on even a medium strength board, that's actually very awkward for most opponents to deal with.
Yeah, true. Also, even though I've never actually seen this happen in a competitive game, ever since that one Pheno stream, as soon as I see the cards Note Taker and Vivid Spores in the same hand, I am just trying to invent OTKs, even though you need multiple Blooms and Brukan already being in play.
Silly things.
yeah, several more mana than this. Perpetual Flame just to carve into a Divine Shield, and then Lightning Bolt, Perpetual Flame.
That was a lot of respect, honestly, from Bunnyhoppor for those golems, right?
It was. It's a ton of overload, yeah. There's 2 more overloads still to come. No overdraft currently in hand to unlock either. Does get the 3-3 to protect a little bit of tempo while he's doing this, but yeah, really does not want to be losing board to Rogue in this matchup. And I do think that's a pretty good recognition of the situation. Losing board is a death sentence, I think, in this matchup. Because obviously they're so much more effective than you at closing out the game in the end game that you need your advantage to be on board as long as possible, right?
Couple stealth minions, again, a little bit frustrating. He's already used the Perpetual Flame last turn that we saw. So although these aren't the biggest or most important minions in the world, if xBlyzes gets a Shadow Step for that Plunderer, just the fact he has two attacks to trade into the board next turn, it's not too shabby at all. Especially going into a fairly limited turn from Bunnyhoppor with only 3 mana available on average. Oh, unfortunate.
Yep.
Gonna peel the shield. Changes his mind, goes face for 2 instead. xBlyzes now wants the turn. That's no field. Oh, what? No, like he was disappointed.
It really did.
I was so
It
confused.
genuinely did. What an absurd draw off the top for xBlyzes.
I think it might have been that's where you've been. What's going on? We're on turn 7. This is now I play the game.
Yeah. There's a look on his face. That's right. I'm xBlyzes. I draw the field contact this turn.
Activate Void. Now my only question with xBlyzes is he going for lethal?
No.
Probably not, but still, I think it's a valid question at this point based on what we've seen today.
True. No interest in weaving in pen flingers here, which I have found quite interesting. Obviously, board space has been a significant concern the entire time, but he had ways to make some trades to clear this board up. Really would not have gained a whole lot.
And this is where, one, the speed of xBlyzes and also just this deck in this kind of situation throws me off a little bit. Because at first I was like, oh, what about Shadow Step on the Octo? Because look at the size of his hand, looks great. But then you very quickly realise he has the second Octo because he's drawn most of the deck. So he Shadow Steps to field contact to then just guarantee a pop-off next turn in almost every single circumstance. So I really like the play overall from xBlyzes, but a lot of decisions to be made in that turn.
Did xBlyzes just rope a thing? Did he want to prep passage there? Because that's viable in that position, right? After he'd secret passage with 0 mana, hit prep passage, he could have played prep passage to dump 2 cards from his hand. It's not necessarily a good thing to do, because prep gains you a ton of mana on your combo turn, which can be important, but it would have thinned out cards in the end. And he did look disappointed, think mouthed the words, that's okay, as his hand went away at the end. So I don't know if for the first time ever, xBlyzes may have actually just roped something in Grandmasters.
And that means it was either a terrible turn or a great turn, right? If you push to the rope when you do a 50 million things.
Yeah.
And the problem here for Bunny, with xBlyzes only 5 cards left naturally next turn, Tidal doesn't really achieve what you want it to, right? It more or less clears the board, which is good. Clearing the board is great. You don't take whatever amount of damage is on there, but Rogue is capable of over 30 damage, so does it matter? It's a pretty awful situation for Bunny. And you know what I was talking about, that very rapid 3-0 full day?
And as you were saying, with 6 cards left, like, you know, the did he want to prep passage thing is a point I just brought up because it's xBlyzes and it's kind of funny to talk about the idea of xBlyzes roping. But with 6 cards left, it really doesn't matter. He has infinite resources to be able to get through 5 remaining cards at this point.
Lethal?
Yes.
Okay. I'm happy. And because xBlyzes was one of my prediction winners.
Same. I'm 2 for 2 if this one goes through at this point.
Yeah, I'm 1 for 1.
Wait, what?
In my 1 prediction for Europe this week.
I see.
Yeah, xBlyzes just locking it in, a smirk from Bunnyhoppor, and he probably expected that this was going to be the case.
Yep.
It's hard for a player of xBlyzes' caliber, of course, to lose in this scenario, right?
Wait. Oh, no, he's good. Prep, Garrot, field contact, 1 thief draws 2, and there's only 1 non-bleed card left in the deck, so this is 100% guaranteed. No problem. As long as he sees it, which I'm sure he does.
A bit of a fist pump. Yeah, xBlyzes knows. He just doesn't make those mistakes, Subtle. How dare you? to be the damage.
Bleeds will march out. xBlyzes will have the drink of water. Will his webcam still be connected by the time that Bunnyhoppor actually dies? That is the big moment of tension now in our Hearthstone Grandmasters broadcast. Bunnyhoppor has had a fantastic day. He took home the Team League Championship in China, but he has come up against the might of peak xBlyzes here, and 3-0 after 3-0 after 3-0 here on Sunday means that xBlyzes is going to be our champion. And good job yet again staying connected.
Is this enough? Is this enough?
Flexing.
Yeah. But you know, congratulations to xBlyzes there. Honestly, I didn't expect another 3-0 for the day to literally make all our 3 matches 3-0 each one. But what a performance from xBlyzes. And I think the thing is, like, as you said, peak xBlyzes. I think the thing that stands out the most is not necessarily that xBlyzes is winning a lot, although it's very true and that is very peak xBlyzes, but it's just how comfortable he feels with this metagame, with these decks. It's just, it's like he's played a million games of each deck against every single potential matchup, right? He just locks in the turn. He's like, no, if this happens, I do this. If that happens, I do that. No problem, blah, 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 dun, dun, dun. And that's what impresses me the most. And you speak about, you know, he's just one of the most intuitive players and just naturally gifted players we've seen. And I think that is visible because it just... He doesn't really have to overthink about anything. He just locks in the correct response for that situation, just like a machine.
I love that reaction. Just hands up like, yes, of course. Of course. I, xBlyzes, draw field contact this turn. Of course. Yeah, I love it, and I think I'm getting more to the bottom of why I'm such a fan of xBlyzes, because people that have followed me for quite some time know that there is another lesser-known player, and it seems weird to say this about a player who's taken down a seasonal HCT championship that I am a colossal fan of, and that's Udachi. And honestly, same energy, right? Very, very fast players who have the weight of just thousands and thousands of games under their belt because they just jam the game endlessly, who just seem to be naturally brilliant at everything they do. Udachi is currently just deciding that he wants to dominate the arena leaderboards by like a whole 0.5 of a win over everyone else, because that's just how good he is at everything. Why he's choosing to dedicate those talents to arena right now, of all things, I'm not entirely sure, but I do feel there's a lot of comparisons to be made between a great like Udachi, in my mind, perhaps the greatest all-around Hearthstone player of all time. Yes, I said it, don't at me. And xBlyzes, who kind of echoes that same thing of being a very, very quick player who seems to play intuitively and instinctively because he's already seen every situation that he has to come up against, right? He already understands because he's already been in that situation before and he's learned through depth of knowledge. I think both of those players are an absolute pleasure to watch. And look, just take a look at that top 4. Frenetic, seasonal champion, running it back again in Season 2. Gabby, the boy king, coming into Grandmasters this season, showing everyone how it's done. xBlyzes, perhaps the best we've seen him play since those back-to-back Masters Tour wins that got him here in the first place. And then a rejuvenated, re-promoted Bunnyhoppor taking his seat amongst those kings as well. That is a fabulous top 4 that we have leading our standings in Europe.
And I think it's fair to say, maybe with Psycho included, this season so far is very much that top 4 and then everyone else, right? Because everyone else is in the mix. Even you look at Tice, Casey, Boston at the bottom 3.